Ciao everybody, my name is Joey. This is my second video with my 11 Seed Beads of the Month club. This one is called Purple Haze, and this is a club by the company Adornable Elements. And when I first signed up, I really wanted seed beads because I don't see these beautiful seed bead colors in the marketplace, and certainly, at least these days, you're not leaving the craft store with seed beads for $2.25, even $4. You're just not. So I love getting it, but as I got to know the company, they actually have 6 different clubs. They have Gemstones of the Month club. They have the Hot and Trendy of the Month, which are the current, like, upcoming new popular bead shapes and colors. They have Delica Seed Beads of the Month club, Gemstone of the Month, Fire Polish of the Month. I might be forgetting one, but anyway, I ended up loving the company so much that I am now rotating. So every month I get a surprise in the mail. I don't know what it's going to be, and this month it was the round Rocaille Seed Beads in 11 in this beautiful purple haze. And so I already did one video with it, and I'll pop that link in the description box if you missed it, because it was really good. But I'm going to do 2 different versions of these seed bead earrings in today's video, and I'm going to show you how to make your own really cool, contemporary, really chic ear wires with some anti-tarnish craft wire. And this is the second version, which I wanted to do a mini and a little bit even more minimalist. I happen to love stick earrings and I love seed beads, and so this is like the 2 worlds colliding. And so I'll show you with my Beads of the Month club, but I went into my stash to do a different color story and just a little bit, change up the design idea. And sometimes it's interesting to see that, like, basically the same thing, but change your beads, change your elements, change your sizes, and you get a completely different look with the same technique. So I've also found something really cool that I'm going to share with you guys. I'm going to put a link for these in the description box. I don't know if you're like me, but I never can tell the difference once I remove my needles from the card between a 10, 11, and a 12. The 12 is the tiniest. The 10 is the largest. And so because I have a dog and a cat, I keep my needles and threads when they're not in use in a tin, and there's a magnetic bottom. I have actually a couple of really cute needle cases, and even a couple that I've made myself. This one looks like a lipstick. I just found it at the craft store, and it's so cute. And so I'm just really big on keeping my needles put away so that my pets don't get hurt on them. But when I remove them from the cards and start using them and put them away, then I can never tell the size. So these needles are color coded. So I know that the red is the size 12. Can you see the colors in the pack? And turquoise is the size 11 and black is the size 10. So I've threaded a size 12 needle here for this larger one, and you'll need a wire guardian. So you'll need 2 wire guardians, and I've just played in my stash to come up with some discs to stack on this earring after I make my loopy situation. And also, cylindrical beads come from an assortment of cylindrical beads, and I can link these. They're quite amazing, the selection in this box. Every kind of tube and cylinder that you can imagine. Shorter ones, longer ones, embossed ones, totally plain ones. And even these aren't really cylinders, but they were in here and they're just gorgeous. And some filigree ones. So like on this earring here, I used the filigree. And they're just so pretty, and they have a nice large hole. So they're great for a project like this, but lots of design possibilities with that large hole. So these are my 2 findings that I've chosen from that assortment. And to start off with, I have taken some 6-pound crystal fire line. I'm going to be using this 6-pound fire line because I used the last on my spool. And then for my other earring, I'm going to go to my favorite, this beige Beadalon Wildfire in the 10-pound. I've been using this beige on all my bead weaving projects for probably the last 2 months, and it's just such a great color. It completely disappears. And so I kind of switched from the crystal to that. But what I've done also for making these earrings, because they are earrings and I need to make a second earring where all the loops are the same, and it is amazing how quickly you forget. So I just took a little piece of scrap paper and put my count, so like 27 green. My next one I did 37 of the dark purple, and then 39 of my gold. I just brought in some Toho 11-0s, and so on and so forth. And for the other earring, here's my little notes, so that when I start the other earring, I don't have to try to remember what I counted for my patterns and what my patterns were. So I would advise you to grab a piece of scrap paper if you like this project. So I went ahead and did the first group of seed beads on my line, which was 27 of this beautiful turquoise how color. Quickly I forget what I did when I make earrings. I don't do production work, so I'll do a design and then move on to something else. So it's not usually something I've done a lot of, but I put my 27 seed beads on here, and then I went back and added my discs. And for this earring, because I chose the filigree cylinder, it has such a large hole, the 11-0 seed beads would just go right inside the cylinder. So my discs act as a stopper bead. I'm just going to like flatten out this side, and without a needle, I am going to poke this through my discs and back up through the cylinder. I know that I can do it. So I didn't bother to put a needle on this side, but you totally could if you feel like you're not going to be able to do this. But the holes in everything is so large. And so that's going to be my first little loop. And what I want to do, and you'll see why I didn't do a stop bead, what I want to do is pull this so that I have a little bit of a tail, really just enough to tie. So my earring looks like that, and now I'm going to come to this side and thread on my discs in reverse, so they just mirror the bottom of the cylinder. And I'm also going to go ahead and feed this tail up through these discs. So this is why I didn't do a stop bead, because these really kind of are my stop bead, and I don't want to struggle, so I'm going to pull this so that I have a pretty nice tail, you know, enough to tie off when I'm all done making all my loops. And then I'm going to take one of my wire guardians, and if you're not familiar with this finding, there's a little tube on either side of the arch, and on the arch there's a channel. So I'm going to run my needle up through the arch and bring that down to my beads. You have to hold on to your tail if you're not putting a stop bead, because you'll lose everything. And I'm just going to then go down through the channel on the other side and back down through all my beads. So let me get my needle in there, and then I'll get my hand out of the way. So see, my needle is going back down through that channel, and when I pull it down, I want to make sure that my thread is resting in that channel across the top of the wire guardian. If you wanted to, and I think on my other one, I think I actually went ahead and tied off my very first before I went back down, and you can totally do it that way. But on the smaller one, I did not do that, and I'm going to, you know, do it that way here. But you can tie off to your tail thread at any time if you feel like it's too wobbly and too much to hold on to. But I don't want to pierce any of my seed beads when I come back down to the other end. And now I am simply going to thread all my loops. Give that a pull so my little earring is started. And I'm just going to refer to my list. The next thing I did is 37 of these darker purple beads. So I'm just going to, they're easier to pick up from my mat. So I'm just going to count 37 beads. Okay, and I'm just going to bring that loop up to my other loop and run my needle up through my disc beads, my cylinder bead, my disc beads, and I'm going to get up here, and I happen to go through the channel all in one pass, and I'm just going to pull everything tight. And I will take, now that I'm back at the top, I'm going to pull everything tight, and I will tie off now before I go back down. So I'm going to come to the other channel and just pull my needle through, and just make sure that my thread is resting in that little groove across the top. And here's my little, where my little tie will come into place. I'm just going to tie a couple of overhand knots. And for security, if you want to, you can tie every time you come up to the top. I didn't do that, but you could. And you can also, when you're all done, you can put a little bit of GS Hypo Cement. I mostly just melted mine off. The other thing that I like to do is take my pliers and kind of squeeze my wire guard together so that it's petite. And so it's started. And now I'm going to continue making my duplicate loops. So next on my list was 39 of the gold. I just did one all gold loop. And I'm going to do all my loops just like that, just following my notes here until I have all 6 loops. So if I didn't say, I did 6 loops on this one. And you know, that's like really up to your, I mean, more would fit because I have large holes in the disc, and this cylinder filigree bead is quite a large hole. So you could do as many or as little as you want. And when I was looking at this, I thought to make it look like, you know, a minimalist kind of stick earring. So I decided to do another version with no spacer, you know, no glass discs, and just making a little bit more of a fun pattern. So I'm going to string these 39 gold and do the same thing. Well, before I string, I want to be back down at the bottom. So I'm going to run my needle back down and just make sure when I'm coming out the bottom that I'm not piercing any seed beads from my 2 completed loops. I'm just going to pull and string and count 39. Okay, I am on my last little loop, and I did run out of my 6-pound crystal, and that was all that I had. So I don't have a tail to tie off to because I had to do another tie off and add in thread. And so I will say too, when you're designing your loops, you know, I have 6 on here, and this little channel is pretty full. So I probably could get another 1 or 2 on there. But if you're going to be doing a wire guardian at the top, you do have to be mindful that that little channel is only going to hold so many passes of thread. So to tie this one off, I'm going to just do a loop at the base of the wire guard. So just like a half hitch knot here, and I probably will put a little bit of GS Hypo Cement on this one just because I had to add in thread. And this is ready to add to the ear wire, and I have my needle threaded and ready to do the other design. So this is my little handmade ear wire, and I did this one really contemporary and just really like a swooping hoop, really chic, really boutique-like. And I'm just going to work harden once I have it closed. And this little pair of beaded beaded loops, this is just the loopy situation. But I had so much fun with the collection of seed beads this month, like these opaque lavender. I did a little pattern with 3 of the gunmetal that are really opaque and matte in between, and then I popped some gold in, and then I did some solid colors with the curation of colors here, and these are just so fun. They're easy, they're fast to make, but they definitely look artisan and boutique. And so we're gonna make an ear wire that's different, and this is what's so fun about making your own ear wires. You can do them really petite, you can do them larger, you can do a smaller loop here, a smaller round here, or a swooping contemporary one. So I'm just going to take a little piece of 20 gauge wire, and I'm going to start with a nice fresh blunt cut, and I'm going to get my 6-step veil making plier, and on the smallest step I'm going to line my wire in there, and I'm just going to roll this back until it's touching the other wire, touching itself till the loop touches. Very inarticulately explain that. And then that's going to be the front of my ear wire, and let's see, I've already forgotten what I did. Nope, that's the one I used. So I used the second to the largest step, And I'm going to place this loop that I just made in the bail making plier like that, so my loop is there, and so that I will be wrapping around whichever step I've chosen. Today it's this one. I used a much larger bail making plier for these swooping ones because this is not even long enough, and I showed this in the first video that I did. So I'm just going to bring that around so that it's almost touching my loop there. And my ear wire is basically formed, and then you can either match them up to trim them, but what I did is put my flush cutters with the flush side just a little bit past. I'm using the bottom of my loop right there as a guide, so I'm just a little bit past, and I'm going to snip right there, and then use my flat nose pliers, and this time I'm only going about half. I have my wire in about half the width of the flat nose pliers, and I'm just going to kick that out a little bit. So sometimes I use the full width. I do it different ways. And then I have my battery operated reamer with the wire rounder attachment, and I'm just going to put my cut end in this wonderful little tool, and it takes all the sharpness off my cut, and my ear wire is ready for my next earring. So that is exactly how I did the this larger one. But for this one, I used this crazy big bail making plier, and I can link this below. But if you want to make really swooping contemporary ear wires, this is a great tool for that. You can really get beautiful, rounded, modern looking ear wires. But you can also use like your bottle of your Permalac. You don't have to have tools. I've been making jewelry most of my life, so I have over the years collected a lot of tools. But if you don't have all of those, and the other things are in your budget, you can definitely make this work. So I'm going to flip over to my notes for my other earring. I already have my needle threaded, and I already have my little seed beads from my stash here, and I'm just going to do another version. So again, no stop bead, and on this earring I just played with my patterns, and so my first loop is 12 yellow and then 12 turquoise, and this is like what's really fun is making up these patterns. Okay, I have my 12 of each, and I don't need to thread a needle on this end because this cylinder is big enough for me to do it like that. And I'm just gonna let a little tail thread hang out here, again, enough to comfortably be able to tie off. And I'm gonna run my needle back up to the top here. And I'm just gonna hold on to everything and be brave and not do a stop bead. But that's my first little loop, half and half. And then same thing again, I'm gonna get my wire guardian, and I'm gonna put my needle up through one channel, one little cylinder on one side of it, and pull that down to the top of my cylinder bead and put my needle back down through the other channel and back down through my cylinder bead. And for me, like I didn't tie off until I came back up to the top because I felt like I was able to hold on to everything. But you could, before you go back down to form your next loop, you can really tie off at any point. But I'm just going to tug, and I've got a little tangle here. Let me pull this tangle out, because when I tug, I want my wire, my bead stringing thread, to rest right in the channel, just like that. And I'm going to pull my tail too, so my loop is nice and taut. And then my next little pattern was 36 in total of the pink and green, just alternated. So I started, what did I start with? I started with a pink and ended with a green. So I'm just going to count to 36, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Okay, now this goes back up through my cylinder and through the little tube at the base of the wire guard. And I'm making sure that I'm holding on to my tail thread, because at this point, if I didn't, I could just pull it all out because I haven't tied off yet. And then I'm going to run back down through my channel. There's like, this is the channel across the wire guard, and this is also a channel, but it's more like the little tube at the end. And I will tie off here. I'm just going to make sure that when I pull, that my thread goes across in that little groove right there. And now take my tail and do a little tie off here before I go back down and do my last loop. And that really secures the wire guard right at the top of the earring and kind of straightens it out too. But I'm going to leave that tail hanging out so that I can tie off when I come back up to the top. And then for my last little pattern on this one, I did these pink seed beads dotted with gold. So there's 6 sections of 5 pink with a gold in between, and I started with the pink. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gold. So there's the last little pattern. I would love to hear from you guys what you think of this as far as your style. Is this something that you would actually wear a lot? Is it something that you like, or do you like the design but you would use a much larger cylinder bead and use like 4mm beads to make these loops much chunkier and more, you know, would make it more of a statement earring? I would love to hear from you guys what you think of this. Personally, I just love these, are just enough for me. I don't wear really giant earrings. I have very, very few chandelier earrings that I actually love and wear. So for me, I love this minimalist, this kind of minimalist style, and I love stick earrings. So I would love to hear in the comments what you guys think. Do you like this idea but you would alter it in some way? You know, what kind of cylinders can you think of to do with this design? You know, that kind of thing. I would love to hear from you. So leave me that in the comments. I feel like over the last couple of years, I've gotten to know a lot of you and your personal taste and favorite colors, like, you know, and I really read all the comments and it does stick in my head. I feel like I do know you guys. So yeah, let me know where this design lands in your personal style. So I'm just tying off at the base, and I am going to burn these threads off. And like I said, if you don't have a lot of confidence in your knots, you can always put a tiny little dot of beader's glue at the base here. Okay, this is ready for the ear wire. I love making my own ear wires because I use my Softflex craft wire a lot of times for this. It's really great for that. It has an anti-tarnish coating, but you can even use scraps of your craft wire. I think this is the sweetest little earring. Like for me, I actually like the smaller ones better than the larger ones. And I will do one more thing. These cylinder beads are lovely. They're just gold plated, and also the wire guards are just gold plated, and I don't want them to tarnish. So I'm going to take my Permalac coating and brush it over the wire guard, inside the wire guard, and this whole like little cylinder tube. And I'm going to do all of them just so that they don't darken. And on this one, I've already brushed these tubes, And so I just really need to do the wire guardian. My wire, you know, as I said, is craft wire with the anti-tarnish coating, so I don't need to worry about brushing it over that, just really getting the wire guardian coated so that it does not darken. And the Permalac dries really quickly, and it's just a really great, like, you know, if you sell your jewelry on a website, or if you're doing a craft fair, or even if you're making gifts, or like for me, these are for me, but I don't want them to tarnish. You know, I spent my time designing these and making these, and my beads are in there, and I want that little earring to last. So I really hope that you guys got a little inspiration or a trick or a tip from my video today. And if you are interested in signing up for the Beads of the Month Club, you can either do just the seed beads of the month, or you can rotate all the clubs that they offer, like I am, and get a surprise every month in the mail. And I do have a discount code, and links will be under the title of this video. So you have to tap more right under the title. And my description boxes are full. I list my favorite tools, my favorite current findings. I will list these beautiful cylinder beads, this assortment there for you. So you always have to tap more a second time to reveal the entire contents of my box. And I really would ask you guys for a favor. There's a new update to the YouTube algorithm that offers viewers the chance to hype a video. And if you do that, it really helps tell YouTube that there is quality content on this channel, and for them to push it out to a wider audience so more people find our sweet little community. That would be so great. But if you could even just take a second to hit that thumbs up, that helps support my work so much, because again, telling the YouTube algorithm to please show this channel to more people. So I would greatly appreciate that. And subscribe and hit the bell notification. I have a really vigorous upload schedule, lots of ideas, lots of variations on different jewelry making, from threading a needle to working with wire to making beads, all kinds of things on my channel. So you won't miss a video. I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, everybody.